sons and daughters.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Aurora Smedley podcast, where I speak with you about what the world needs to hear. And in today's episode, I'm going to be discussing the question, should I do music? And I chose to do this topic because recently I had a friend of mine chat with me about the fact that he was thinking that he wants to do music and asking for my opinion on that. So I decided that I would record a video about the 6 factors that I would consider knowing what I know now. And a lot of this is going to be stuff that people don't really want to think about and don't really want to hear, honestly. So the first thing in deciding whether you want to do music is, I feel that if you know that you should do music, you will know that deep inside in your heart of hearts, if you know that you should do music and that there is only one thing that will fulfill your soul's purpose on earth, and that's music, then that's when you should do music. And I think that if you know deep down that this is for you, then you know. I think that if you know, you know. And it sounds perhaps a little cliche, but I feel that if you have any doubt in your mind that this is what you want to do, if you have any doubts whatsoever, then you should do something else. Because frankly, it's a very competitive industry, and everything is competitive. All industries are competitive, but the music industry is very competitive. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of people that want to make it, and you need to be more committed than all of those people, and you need to be willing to go through whatever period that it takes in order for you to be successful. So I would say only do music if you feel in your heart of hearts that this is what you must do, that this is what you would like to do with your life. And of course, I know that there are probably plenty of exceptions. There's probably a lot of people that, perhaps there's some people that, they're just having fun and they release a song and they become famous by accident and they didn't really have to try that hard in order to make it to happen. But I do not think that that's true for the vast majority of people in the music industry. You talk about Lady Gaga, you talk about successful independent musicians, pretty much everybody talks about that you will work hard for this career. So if there's any doubt in your mind about whether you want to do this, then don't do it. But if you know that this is yours, that this is for you, that this is what you must do with your life, then this is what you need to do, quite simply. So that's the first factor that I would consider if I was to give you any advice for whatever it's worth, right? Because I'm just some person, right? Who cares? Who cares what I think, right? I'm just telling you as somebody who is in the middle of it, who is in the middle of building, who has seen some level of external recognition, for example, through NPR and KEXP. I will tell you that this is just part of the game. The second factor that I want to discuss is this idea of commitment. So I think some people who want to get into music, they get into music because they love it, right? They love it. They love music. They're a fan of music. They really enjoy music. And I think that all of this is great, right? But something that a lot of people don't discuss about music is that, are you willing to suffer for music? Are you willing to potentially go through extreme levels of personal, emotional, and financial pain for music? And I'm not saying that this is going to be what happens for you, right? Because perhaps you are working in a tech job and then you can do music on the side. You're making lots of money. You're doing great, right? Maybe you have a trust fund. Maybe you have some kind of external investment or support that can help you to get to where you want to be quicker and easier. Maybe you have connections. Maybe you have family members, right? I didn't have any of this personally. And even if you do have those things, you will still face external pressure to get a real job, to do something that's quote unquote responsible, to stop having your head in the clouds and do something that's actually realistic. And you're going to hear this from society. You're going to hear this from friends. You're going to hear this from family members. You are going to have an immense amount of social pressure that is going to push you away from music, that is going to tell you that you should not do music, that you should become responsible, that you need to take care of your whatever, your financial responsibilities, your having a family, having a white picket fence, etc. So you need to decide whether you are willing to keep going through all of that for however long that it takes for you to realize the success that you're looking for. So Alex Hormozy, I love that guy. He recently had a post saying that the word passion actually derives from the Latin word passio, which means to suffer. And so at some point, we need to understand that if you want to do music as a career, if you want to make a career out of music, I think to some extent you must also be willing to suffer for music. And not that we want to make our life around suffering or whatever, but you need to understand that it's not always going to be roses and daisies, that following your passion is often much more challenging emotionally, spiritually, physically than you could possibly think, right? So you need to be willing to go through whatever it takes, whatever pain, whatever external pressure, whatever external rejection, etc. People ignoring your music for potentially months and years before you get to quote unquote the place that you want to be, before you get to quote unquote success. So this might sound like a little dark or a little hard, but I just want to prepare you internally for anything that you need to go through in order to reach success, because it's possible that you will blow up overnight. That's possible. It's also possible that you could go at it for many years and not see the success immediately. Regardless of whatever happens, you need to decide whether you are committed or not, whether this is something that you are truly committed to through anything that happens, good or bad, challenging, not challenging, success, no success, right? Are you committed through all of that? The third factor that I would consider regarding whether to do music or not is to define what success is to you. So I think a lot of people don't actually know what success really looks like for them. Because we just see these rappers on TV and they have hella money and all the ladies. So we just assume that that's what success is. Whereas success for you might look quite different. Success for you might look like I'm making a living as a musician in a local market. Or I am a party DJ at weddings and I'm having a blast. Or it could look like you touring the world with Lady Gaga. I keep bringing her up because I love her. And so what does success look like for you actually? And I know, for example, I was reading Nick D's book. He's a successful indie artist. I was reading his book and he was talking about, for him, success was he wants to be able to stay at home, not tour, and be able to just enjoy his work and make a good living from doing music. And that's exactly what he did. He doesn't tour. He stays at home with his family, produces his music videos, and he has a massive following and makes $70K a month from streaming revenue, right? But he also points out that he didn't really blow up for over 2 years of releasing music every week. So that's what was going on for him, right? So what is success for you? I think a lot of people that are outside the music industry also don't recognize that there's a million different jobs within the music industry. You could be a band manager. You could be a music marketer. You could run a music venue. You could run music events. You can be a contract studio guitarist. You can be a famous artist. You can be an artist that plays at weddings. You can be a wedding band. You can be a jazz musician. You can be a jazz band that does contract jazz work. So these are actually all different career trajectories. Are you a studio musician? Are you a sync musician? Are you focusing on making music for television? Is that success for you? These are all different career pathways and different ways that you can achieve quote unquote success. So what is actually true for you? What do you want your life to look like? What career trajectory is actually going to make you feel fulfilled? And how can you do that? Point number 4. The next thing that I want to point out is that to find success in the music industry as a musician, you need to understand that you are running a small business, that you are effectively looking for a way to make a small business profitable. So in order to be successful in the music industry in pretty much any area, you need to understand that you are a business owner. And that you are not only looking to find success as a quote unquote artist, but you are looking to find success as a business owner, as a business. And so how are you going to realize that? What does that look like for you? This includes profit and loss. This includes taxes. This includes royalties. This includes copyright. This includes intellectual property. Right? So all of these things are going to go into your ultimate success. And if you are not willing to do that, then you either need to stay on the hobbyist side of things, or you need to find somebody that you really, really trust who is going to help you on the business side of things, to somebody to partner with in order to make that side of the things happen, because that is going to be part of it. The 5th point that I want to bring up is work ethic. So it sounds nice to play music all the time until you have to. Are you going to keep showing up for music the same way that a carpenter needs to show up to go work on a house every single day or work on some kind of contract every single day, right? Because you are going to be doing music that much all the time, even when you are not feeling inspired to do so. Are you going to show up for music the same way that a carpenter is going to go and show up to hit a nail on the head to build a house? I think sometimes people that just dip into music every now and then, they don't recognize that sometimes you don't want to do it. Sometimes it's not fun. Sometimes you're not having a great time. Sometimes you don't feel motivated. You don't feel inspired. Are you going to find a way to show up anyway? This doesn't mean that you have to be in the music creation process all the time, right? Like there's content, there's practicing your instrument, there's practicing vocals, there's production, there's running the management business side of things. There's a lot of things to be done. You will need to show up all the time, even when it's not that fun and you're not that inspired. So are you willing to do that? Are you willing to show up for music in the same way that a carpenter does? In the same way that a plumber does, in the same way that a coder does? Are you willing to show up for music like that? Because if you are doing music as a career, then you are showing up for music every single day like that. All right. All right. So I'm just going to lay on one more. And the 6th point that I'm going to discuss with you is this idea of vulnerability. And I'm speaking to this in two different ways. The first is that doing music, becoming a musician, deciding that you want to do music is actually a very vulnerable decision, because oftentimes, like, if you do want to do music, it's something that deep in your heart you care very, very much about. And this is terrifying, because if you don't see success, then that's scary. The thing that you love most is not being externally validated. There is a lot of vulnerability to deciding to do music. Moreover, when you put your artistry out in the world, sometimes it can feel that you are standing naked in front of 100,000 people, because that's essentially what it is. Sometimes when you release music, you're going to feel very, very vulnerable, and this is sometimes the best music out there. So in this whole process of deciding whether you are going to do music, whether you should do music, I will point out that choosing to do music is a very vulnerable decision, and that I applaud you for even thinking about it, for even considering it, for being real with yourself that this might actually be what you want, because a lot of people don't actually admit it to themselves, and they, for their whole life, just ignore it and shove it down and don't look at the fact that deep down, this is actually what they want to do. So I applaud you for considering it, for thinking about it, and for being vulnerable with yourself about this possibility of wanting to do it. And also recognizing that if you go out there and you do decide to do it, you do decide to pursue it, you do decide to commit, you show up with the work ethic, that the whole process is probably going to feel really vulnerable and scary, and that there's going to be parts of yourself where you feel like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? So I guess thank you for considering music. Thank you for believing in yourself enough to watch this video, to listen to this podcast, because it's a big decision. And I know that if you put your mind and your heart to it, that you will make all of your dreams come true. So with that, thank you very much for listening to this podcast. I hope that this has been supportive for you in deciding whether music is right for you. And I look forward to seeing you in the next podcast.